Hey guys, Bump here, bringing you my first Unholy Myth Plus video for the within pre-patch. I've had opportunity to play a couple of dungeons now, and I'm completely sold. The Unholy in the pre-patch just does insane amounts of AoE damage, and it just feels so fun to play. Like every single pack, you can burst a million DPS. You have cooldowns all the time. You got to really satisfying gameplay around bursting wounds. That just I don't know, it just makes it incredibly fun and rewarding to play. I also think there's a couple of builds here where you can pick and choose what you want to play, how you want to make the spec feel in a way. This specific one I'm running is actually a no army build. I got it up here. You can have a look. So essentially, you take the standard Myth Plus build, you sacrifice army and Race Abomination, which is essentially just sacrifice and Race Abomination. You pick up Reaping and you pick up Harbinger of Doom. So what this does for you is that you get a lot more Sun Doom procs, 30% more, which means obviously more Epidemic crits, and you get more Magi, which then cleave. Furthermore, you also get much more flexibility. So with a standard build, if you get a Sun Doom proc, you really want to spend that ASAP, so you don't end up wasting any procs. With this build, obviously you have 2 stacks, so you're kind of chilling. If you get a proc, right, you don't need to spend it right away. You can continue with the setup and then send it when you need and want to send it, right? I do think there are options where you could run stuff like Festering Scythe and maybe Pestilence, but I think those are pretty big single target losses. This build right here, I did a sim 3 minute with Bloodlust to check like how does it compare on a boss fight, and honestly it was only 1% behind the pure single target, and I do think you gain a lot of AoE through those extra Sudden Doom procs. So you might just be, I remember when I did the original sims, I had a look at Dungeon Slice, and this was like the best simming build, so I do have a lot of faith in it. But also, as I said, you do lose a tiny bit of single target, but it's not that much, so yeah, who cares? It seems like Unholy currently is very much up there when it comes to how much DPS it can put out. I didn't run much dungeons, right? It was like a couple 12s, 14s, that kind of thing, so I don't think I've played with a lot of, players that usually play a lot kind of thing. But I think given the detailed screenshots or whatever I've seen, Unholy is doing really well in the damage department. Right, so that was kind of like the intro and summary. Let's take a look at the rotation here and talk that through, because this video is not only a commentary. I will talk about the rotation, go through that, and then towards the end we'll just do commentary on the actual gameplay. So how does this work? What do you do when you approach attack? Well, the first thing I like to do is pop down Defile and do a Naked Skirt Strike. Defile is up there when it comes to the damage it deals, and it's quite nice to get that going before everything else, so you can leverage that damage and make your Skirt Strike cleave once you've finished with the setup of the wounds, right? After this point, you want to use Dark Transformation. It starts cleaving, start applying wounds to everything, and then you want to set up for your Vial Contagion, right? You will have Vial Contagion for pretty much every single pack. If you have Dark Transformation, you will have Vial Contagion. What you want to do is double or triple Festering Strike, depends on if you have the runes for it, or just Festering Strike until Unholy Assault. The ideal scenario is to get 6 wounds on a single target, and then follow up with Vial Contagion and spread all those wounds to everything around it. You then do Apocalypse, and then you just start spamming Skirt Strike to burst all those wounds. If you get Sun Doom procs, you spend those. Epidemic does a ton of damage with Sun Doom due to the fact that it crits, and you want to summon your Magi because they cleave and everything. We picked up that talent. After this point, it's just quite a repetitive rotation. You're gonna refresh the file when your Cleaving Strike runs out. Remember that it lasts for 4 seconds after the initial 10-second buff you get from the file. And essentially, the fast cooldown means that you will have that up 100% of the time. I do like, to make it more efficient, once your Cleaving Strike window runs out, you can then focus on Epidemic a little bit, because, you're not cleaving anyway with your Skirt Strike, so you focus on Epidemic and then pop down Defile and go to Skirt Strike. Using Epidemic also indirectly gives you more runes. You have this Runic Corruption proc we get, so that's a good idea. You refresh your dots, obviously, when needed, and then that's kind of rotation. Just spamming Skirt Strike, cleaving, spamming Epidemic with Sun Doom, or when you can't use Skirt Strike. And then also refresh your dots. And that, that's the rotation, essentially. We have a look at this. We have a boss fight. Again, this is a 3 target. Whenever it is more than one target, you're going to use Vile Contagion. I use it in a very similar way to I usually do here. So a single Festering, Unholy Assault, into Vile Contagion, and then we're just going into AoE rotation. You can see there's a lot. It's just spamming lots of Epidemics, lots of Skirt Strike. When it comes to Epidemic versus Death Claw, by the way, Epidemic on 2 targets and then up. It's like a tiny difference if you use Death Claw. I think it's a little bit more DPS. I can't remember exactly. But like in pretty much all scenarios, what you want to do is just leverage Epidemic in any AoE situation. You can see cooldowns back up, stack up to 6, Vile Contagion, Apocalypse, and then we go into the Cleaver. Simple as that. You see I'm sitting at 1.2 million at this point, which is pretty juicy. I think the tank probably could have been pulling a bit more aggressively in the next section, so I did drop down. But I think if you start going up to like 20s, which I hopefully will be able to show you some videos of, I think Unholy is just going to pop off so much, because there's just so much AoE damage. Again, our single target isn't the greatest, so you probably want to make sure you have at least one class that can do well single target. But like if you look at overall damage, I think Unholy is just going to be the best. Look at that, right? Just finished the boss, new pack, Defile, Skirt Strike, Dark Dispation, stack up with Festering and Assault, Vile Contagion, let's go for it. I think I made a mistake here. This specific pack is that I used Vile Contagion when the mob wasn't close to. It was like close, but not close enough to actually spread the wounds. So the actual range is quite small. Just be aware of that. But still, 1 million burst, so can do that, no problem. When it comes to your other stuff, like there's only really Abomination Limb, and I just tend to send that on cooldown. That's it. Gear and stuff, I run double passive here. I'm sure you could run like Ashes or something like that to get more on-demand burst windows, but I think double passive fits quite nicely due to the fact that our cooldown windows are so frequent. Here we go. Stack up to 6. Press Vile Contagion. It's quite funny here because you have a lot of these small mobs. When they die with 6 stacks of Festering Wounds on them, they're just gonna all instantly explode, and you get this really big kind of chaining effect where everything just ends up dying immediately. All right, I think this Unholy is simpler than it usually was. You don't have that many spinning plates. Like obviously you have stuff like your Plaguebringer that you want to keep up. You have your tier set that you ideally want to keep up, but those kind of naturally, if you just do a normal rotation, they are gonna be active. No real problem there. It's all about just every 4 to 5 seconds, execute your Vile Contagion burst window, and then just enjoy the absolute insane amount of damage you get out of it. I think that's the kind of vibe here. Right. Specifically, now this dungeon, it's a bit bugged at the moment, so we're going to end up going to the next boss where he just dies, where he does his first kind of grip in. I will, yeah, you will see it quite clearly. So this dungeon is actually much easier than it usually was, or much easier. That wasn't like a problem boss anyway, so still. Alright, you can see I'm entering this pack. My cooldowns aren't running quite yet, but just wait a couple seconds. In this instance, I managed to get up 6 wounds. You can take it, depending on how quickly the pack dies, you can take a couple seconds to do like Festa, some Epidemic, Festa, if you really want to hit up to 6 wounds. Like going to 5 or 4 is fine, but obviously if you multiply that and how many wounds you spread, you start losing out on a lot of wounds overall by not going to 6. But at the same time, if the pack dies before you actually execute your burst, you obviously waited too long. So I usually do 2, but sometimes 3 if I'm feeling like it. I don't think there's like a very hard limit there. All right, you can see again, if you're playing like a normal dungeon, it's quite a natural cadence that you end up in a new pack every 4 to 5 seconds, which means that the only difference, like our main burst window, obviously we have an Unholy Assault as well, which means that we burst a little bit more. and the Abomination Limb helps a bit as well. But like honestly, our 45-second windows are nearly as strong as that. Here's another one. Go in, do the normal, naked skirt strike, do a Festa, internal assault, fire contagion, and everything just explodes. As I said, these slashers, you spread 6 wounds on them, one of them dies, and that instantly bursts all those wounds, which then means everything else dies, which means they all also burst their wounds. So definitely it's kind of like Warlock's Soul Flame, which did the same thing. Where something dies, it exploded, and then you have instances where if you have a really big pack, that would just do so much. I'm sure guys would ask, should I play Frost or Unholy? Which one's best? I did play Frost, and I will put out some videos on that. And I feel like both of them are competitive. Like when I did Frost, my overall was 800k, but it was in a different dungeon, so not that easy to compare. I don't know. I think Frost might actually be stronger, but I'm gonna have to play around with it a little bit more to get a better vibe. All right, just pure single target encounter. I need to check actually because I had a look at the APL and it didn't use Defile on single target, but my kind of vibe is that Defile does a lot of pure damage, so that might be something to revisit. Currently I'm not using Defile on single target, but that might actually be incorrect, so I'll have to get back to you guys on that on a different video. I saw on this boss it just dies when he does finishes his script, which is a bit weird, but it also is the pre-patch, so you can't expect that much, can you? Alright, some other comments and thoughts here, right, with Unholy compared to Dragonflight or whatever. Festamite being Iron Fur is so nice. I caught myself at start kind of worrying. I was like, oh, my Festamite's about to go out or run out. I should hold off my burst window so I can actually start a new one. And then I realized, hang on, I don't need to care about that anymore. I can just do my normal burst and get full value, no problem. So that is a huge quality of life improvement. Also, I feel like Unholy at the moment has a much better kind of resource balance. We still have a bit too many resources, yes. But the fact that when you get a Sundoom proc, it actually does use some rune power, it feels much better. Like it's actually a bit more satisfying to spend some rune power and get that kind of, oof, that was a nice proc vibe. Because you do get that, it feels great to consume some Doom procs. In AoE, like that epidemic you use, it's just going to deal so much damage because it all crits. Every single target, everything just crits, and that's just so much value. Also, Unholy Blight being baked into Dark Transformation is great. Setup is a bit lower. We don't have as many cooldowns anymore. We're just vibing, man. I'm so happy about this. Yeah, obviously I had this podcast with Max from Limit or Liquid. Sorry, I can't remember which one it is. And we were just saying like if we were to grade Unholy at the moment, where we would put it, and everyone went like, it's definitely 8 here because I think the changes they made is so great. I'm gonna make sure. So I think the talents I showed you, like the class specific tree, there's quite a lot of option there. I am running the one where your what's it called? Anti-magic shell spreads. I think it's great value because obviously it puts on a shield on everyone, and if they get a debuff, that's 50% shorter, so great value. Originally, when I was thinking about class challenge, I was like, yeah, we're going to use Mirror Ball all the time. The one that removes debuffs when you press AMS. But in a cluster environment, that is rarely going to be useful. I can see it like on specific dungeons, specific bosses, you can probably gain a ton of value. But by default, I would just always just run the one that gives you to your allies and then stay with it. Look at that, because now this is something I thought about specifically when I played. I've not used Wraithwalk for like entire expansion. It has just been difficult to justify to pick up. But now it's quite easy to grab in class 3, and I'm like, oh, look at that. I have a root break. Nice. I really can't complain. As I said, I'm so happy. This is just good vibes. This pool, I remember, I didn't have any cooldowns. The other twos were just blasting. I still do like fine, but it's not nearly the same. If you have DT available, I would do 2 million here easily. Because now I just end up with Skirt Strike Cleave and Epidemic Spam. Which, to be fair, it's still 760k. But like having the rep beat me, even for one pull, still didn't feel like the best. Alright, so I end up in this weird situation at this part of dungeon because we end up chain pulling. And then it's difficult to justify committing your cooldowns. So I think I eventually do it when you fight 2 targets. But obviously you should try to use cooldowns as much as possible. They're such short cooldown. But then if you haven't have 2 targets, it's like kind of like, oh, this is just a big waste. You know, that's too bad. Anyway, we make short. Yeah, these ones die quickly. And then we'll get some bigger pulls coming up that are not going to be too much of a problem. I also felt like, you know, even though this build isn't very single target oriented, I could still hold my ground against the other guys. As I said, it's when you're not playing very high-end keys, it's difficult to expect the people to play with. They might even not be fully geared. They might be playing to get gear or not to go for score, that kind of thing, which obviously creates a bit of a bias. So do let me know in the comments. Have you guys played with someone that has been just absolutely blasting and you were not able to keep up? You know, let me know. Obviously, I think what's it called? Survival was really, really overtuned for the first couple of days, but they did nerf those, so that's good. Unfortunately, we've also received nerfs on the beta. I'm not sure if you saw. I might just cover it here, but Unholy got quite a significant nerf. I think it was 15% on all abilities, except Clawing Shadows, which got a big buff. One of the weird things going on at the moment is that Playbringer versus Clawing Shadows is very much in Playbringer's favor. So that was a bit unbalanced. So I think they went weird, just nerfing everything else, buffing Clawing Shadows to make that a bit more competitive choice. Also, they did nerf our Deathbringer for Frost, and they did nerf the Riders as well, which is not ideal. It's hard to say. It's good that they're obviously balancing. It doesn't always feel great to be nerfed, but I'm not sure if there was reason to it, given my testing. But yeah, I'm sure they have good data on it. I'm just happy that they keep, you know, nerfing, buffing, that kind of thing. So hopefully we end up in a scenario where when we actually do end up in the War Within, stuff is roughly equalized. Still, I think I mentioned this before, I'm a fan of where Unholy is at the moment, and I think the damage profile is going to help a lot to be able to perform well in both Myth Plus and raiding environments when it comes to damage. I think I kind of forgot to use my legendary this Myth Plus. It doesn't matter that much. It doesn't do much when the active is used, but it's still good practice to use it. Right, we're just going to fight this boss. I will put up the kind of overalls here. Couple of points there. Burn Plague, Epidemic, and Bursting Swords. That's kind of like your main source of damage. I think Epidemic, if you don't run this Harbinger build, is going to be much lower because you end up getting much fewer Sundoom procs, which means that you will use Epidemic less often and therefore don't get as much value. Still, you can see the Defiled is up there, 6.5%, and that's just the raw damage. That's why we use it the way we do it, because for a single button press, it is a great value button in AoE. Obviously, we have our Magi coming up there. We have our pet as well. And then that's kind of like the mind source, you know. Skirt Strike Cleave is actually quite a lot if you combine the shadow and physical portion. That's like 8%. So that's just about where your pet is doing damage. So that spamming Skirt Strike is actually worthwhile. It's not only to burst wounds, it's also to do solid AoE damage, right? Anyway, let me know down in the comments as always, what did you think about this video? Are you excited to jump on the Unholy Death Knight and then, you know, whack some targets on Mythic Plus? As I said, simpler rotation. I think it's a bit easier to get into, not as many buttons, and a bit less complicated rotation overall. So I think it's a good opportunity to go out there and then just blast on your Unholy DK. Thank you very much for watching as always. Stay tuned for more videos. I'll make some Frost DK Plus videos as well. So make sure you watch those. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.